Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in, welcome in. I hope everybody had a lovely weekend here in May. I know I did 22 sales this weekend, which I believe will be my biggest weekend sales update video yet. Lots of variety here, including 2 sales that were in the triple digits, so we'll go through those. But I will note that the week leading into the weekend was also phenomenal. 23 sales, Monday through Thursday. 2 days each had 8 sales, so that was a phenomenal week, and the weekend just kept on giving. Those 22 sales, 9 were on eBay, 1 was Facebook Marketplace, 2 on Poshmark, 9 on Vinted, and 1 on Whatnot. Sidebar, I am currently in Vinted jail, by the way. Vinted is an amazing place. No fees, Whatnot to sell. Well, Whatnot has fees, but no fees on Vinted to sell. But they have some strict rules. For example, I have made the mistake of twice, I cross-list. So I put all my listings on eBay, then use cross-list to, boom, shoot all those listings onto the other sites, all the other 7 sites that I list on. And I do my listings in batches of 6, so I'll do 6 listings on eBay, then go and blast them off. Anyway, twice I've made the mistake of listing scrubs on Vinted, and Vinted deems scrubs as medical supplies. So I've gotten 2 warnings on scrubs, so I need to beware. And it's not like you click the items and then you click per item which sites. You click the items, then you click the sites that you want them to go to. There's not like, oh, I don't want the scrubs to go on Vinted, but all the other ones. I would have to list the other 5 onto the others and then go back into the scrubs and click them all other than Vinted. Doable, I just forget. However, I am in jail because I was listing pocket knives on Saturday night, and I do bundles or listings, batches, I should say, of 6. 3 of these in this batch of 6 were pocket knives. So boom, I blasted them onto the other sites. They were immediately taken off of Mercari. No warning of a ban or suspension or anything. However, they listed on Vinted, and after the first one, and they load, I got a warning, and I'm like, oh no. And then the second one posted, I got another warning, and I went in and I tried to cancel before the third one listed, but I didn't get there in time. And so I am on a 3-day ban, or 3-day suspension of Vinted. However, it doesn't make it so I can't make sales, because that was on Saturday night, and today during the Sunday, I had 2 sales on Vinted. So I can still sell, and I can still send offers, but I cannot put any new listings up, which, whatever. It's over on Tuesday. Yeah. Let's get into the 22 sales, because we got a lot of sales to rattle through here, folks, so let's just get to it. First up, we're going to start with the lowest sale of the weekend, and the only sale on eBay of Friday, which was a pack of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trading cards. This is the second series, so a little less desirable than the first. Then these are from 1990. I got these in a bundle giveaway from Poker Dude over on Dibdit. Shout out Poker Dude. I didn't end up keeping these, but they sold for a couple bucks, and they're going to Sherman, Texas. Then the other sales from Friday, 4 more sales on Friday, and all of them were unvinted. So I got to get that suspension uplifted and not make that mistake again. First up, a pair of Miss Me jeans. These are women's size 28. Nothing real special about them. They got the cool Y2K sequiny pattern on the back. These I got for $1 at a garage sale, and they sold for $17 over on Vinted. Not as many women's threads as last weekend, because I did spend that first week of May only listing women's clothing and handbags and shoes. But there were some still throughout the weekend, like this right here. This is a Sienna Sky women's blouse. This was my wife's. She didn't want it anymore, and so she said, hey, sell this on your women's clothing auction at the end of May. And I said, sure will, but I'm going to list it first, see if we can get a little extra. And it sold for $5 over there on Vinted, and it's going to Norwood, Massachusetts. Then, a little Sesame Street VHS sold within 24 hours of being listed. It's got some wear on the sleeve. It's not perfect. I got this at a Estate Liquidators fill-a-bag sale for $5. And one of the bags was completely stocked full of VHS, mostly blank sealed, but there were some kids' VHS in there as well. This sold for $5 over on Vinted, and that is headed to Spring Hill, Florida. So with no fees on Vinted, this paid for the whole bag of VHS, just this one. So very nice. And our last sale of Friday, women's Columbia fleece. These do pretty well in the fall, or if you can catch at the end of winter before spring. I didn't catch either of them, and I have a bunch, so I just let this one go for cheap, accepted an offer for $4 on Vinted. And brown is a little less desirable color. People like the purples, even the grays. Brown a little bit less so. So that wraps up Friday, which surprisingly for 5 sales was the slowest day of the weekend. So let's get into Saturday. First up, you know, I normally stay away from loose dolls, especially if they have a $2 price tag on it. However, me not knowing very much about dolls and why I stay away from them in the first place, thought this was a Monster High doll, which can have pretty good value. I know to look for the vintage Barbies with the rubber legs, but I thought this was a Monster High. It's not a Monster High, so it has much less value than a Monster High. It's a Disney Descendants Eevee doll that I paid $2 for. It sold for $8 over on eBay going to Clarksville, Tennessee. Easy packager. Not a loss. Certainly not. Then, 2 baseball sales of the weekend, both on Saturday, both on eBay. First, a Cesar Geronimo, 4-time Gold Glove winner there. Signed Major League Baseball with the certificate of authenticity and 2 stickers of authenticity. That sold for $120 going to Richmond, Indiana over there on eBay. Good old Cesar. Our second and last baseball sale of the weekend, and the biggest sale of the weekend, is another signed ball, Dick Allen. American League MVP 1972 signed baseball with a certificate card of authenticity and this matching sticker. That one sold for $196, did good old Dick Allen. He's going to Indian Harbor, Florida. And that was it for eBay, just 3 eBay sales on Saturday. But we will head on over to Poshmark, 2 sales on this. This is a less impressive visual of it, but I have it nicely stacked in here. This is a really cool women's hiking backpack that I got for $3. It sold for $12 over on Poshmark. Pretty cool little backpack. Then, I tell you what, Sperry women's shoes, I stayed away from a long time because I had several pairs and they just weren't moving on eBay. I put the listings over onto the other sites. Boom, one on Vinted. Boom, one on, well, we'll get to that one. But boom, one also on Poshmark. These ones sold for $17. My wife got these at the estate sale that she went to while I slept in. She went sourcing for me. She picked these up for, I think, $1. And they sold for $17 over on Poshmark. And then our last 3 sales of Saturday were all on Vinted, 2 of which were to the same buyer. First up, this right here. This is a Vera Bradley Lucky Dots pattern. I recently, at a Citywide, got 6 Vera Bradleys. They were ranged between 50 cents and $1 a piece, and the majority of them were good condition. You know, a couple of them had a little bit of wear on the bottom, but I think only 2 maybe were cooked, as the kids say. This one, I don't know. It has an inner lining issue on the bottom, but it doesn't go through. It's an interior cosmetic flaw that just the stitching of the side came out. So it looks uglier than it is. But it still definitely hurt the value, but not terrible. Well, yeah, $5. So Vera can be good. You really have to look out for the staining and the worn corners. But the interior base lining is a new flaw for me. And then, excuse me, this one almost took the cake for the oldest listing. So, as you know, I've been doing this crosslist platform, platform service, and putting all my new listings onto there. However, I got to thinking, well, things are selling really well, especially on things like Vinted and Poshmark. I should go back to some of those stale eBay listings, because if you don't know, and if you're not a reseller, if you list something, it gets eyes pretty quickly. But if it becomes stale and you're not going in and relisting it or changing around pictures or just touching it up a little bit here and there, it becomes stale and it doesn't pop up really. Like this right here. This is a Vera Bradley bag. It is not perfect. It has some discoloration right up here. I had this listed on eBay for over a year now. over a year. And I used to have an eBay thing where all my listings dropped by $1 every month. I did end that in January because of some things sales were going through, and I'm like, really? I have to package that up for that much money. But so I ended all that. However, this did get lowered down to $6. Anyway, it was a stale listing. It's over a year old. So I went back into my thing and cross-listed some of those old listings rather than some of the new ones. So I'm like, let's get this old stuff out of here. And this sold right away. Sat over a year on eBay and sold within the first couple days for $6 over on Vinted to the same buyer as that last one. And our last sale, also on Vinted, this little handmade wallet. I believe my good friend Lori made this. She gave me a big donation of items, and she messaged me today that she's going to do the same again. It's definitely a homemade wallet. I'm not sure if she made it homemade or got it at a craft show that I know she enjoys, but it was in the box that she didn't want anymore, and it sold for $5 on Vinted going to Las Vegas, Nevada. Now we're going to slide into Blue Skidoo Weekend 2 right into Sunday, and 9 sales on Sunday. So definitely the bulk of the weekend was on Sunday. Not money-wise, because the baseballs really carried the weekend. But we'll start off with a shirt from my closet. I made it a point in, believe it was February, to clean out my closet, try everything on Dibdit to get rid of it quick, and then anything that nobody wanted on Dibdit, my live auction, I would list, and I did. And this is one of my old shirts, Sonoma, size large. The buttons were starting to scream a little bit, so we listed her up, and it sold for $7 on eBay going to Bloomfield, Kentucky. Certainly better than tossing it in the trash or giving it to a thrift store to overcharge. Next up, speaking of cleaning out the closet, shout out Papa Mike for cleaning out his closet because he did so quite a while ago. And here's a shirt that he gave me. This is a Harley Davidson Stuart, Florida sleeveless or tank top shirt. No flaws in it. $7 going to Bordentown, New Jersey. Next up, from the toy store estate sale, I got a box, if you remember, of belt buckles. There were, I think, 14 or 15 belt buckles for $20. Sure, I like that price. And 5 of them, or 6 of them, were these Yukon Jack belt buckles. This is the second of those 6 to sell. This sold for $12, going to Ottawa, Illinois. The same buyer also bought another belt buckle. This is a Chambers belt buckle. A little horse riding action going on the front there. This one sold for $8, going to the same buyer. Oh, and then we got some Mini Cooper magazines, MC Squared. So the very first estate sale I went to of 2026, I got these. I actually got a bin of 20 Mini Cooper magazines. I broke them down into 5 listings, 3 single magazine listings, and then 2 bundles. And this is one of the bundles. I got all the magazines, all 20 magazines for $2.50. These 7 magazines sold for $18, and they're going to Mobile, Alabama. These ones are all sealed, and they are all different. Nice little turnaround. And then I still have the other 13 magazines to sell, so we're doing good there. Then, at a estate sale also this year, I don't know why I bought them, but I did. I mean, I'm going to do well on the other ones. But I got a bunch of home phones, which I hate cleaning and testing. Anyway, I did. And 3 of the 4 that I bought worked without issues. And one of the bundle is a pretty good one by AT&T. This was kind of the runt of the litter. This is the VTech. This is one of the earlier VTech home phone handsets. This one does power on when plugged into the base, when plugged into the wall. But the battery doesn't hold a charge like the other ones do. So I listed this one really cheap. And it sold for a few bucks on Vinted. Oh, I skipped over one because I don't have it here to show you. I had a Facebook Marketplace sale, my 3rd Facebook Marketplace meetup sale. And it was a pair of women's Birkenstock sandals. And I'll have the Birkenstocks maybe in the thumbnail of this. They sold for $26, Facebook Marketplace, cash money. I got those for free at a free curb pickup here in my hometown. They just put a bunch of stuff on the end of the curb, and I scooped up a few items, and those were in there. And they sold, same town, $26 cash, and I needed to get some soup over there at the Dollar General anyway, so I just met up with him. Very nice gentleman. Thank you very much. And took the cash and went inside and got some soup. So I got $22 and 3 cans of soup in exchange for a pair of Birkenstocks I got for free, so I'll take that any day. Thank you very much. Which also made me realize that when I do this cross-list thing, some of the prices seem a little weird when I put them on Marketplace, because $26 for Birkenstocks is a little odd price. I mean, people don't bat an eye when it's online prices, but when it's like in-person cash prices, they're like $26. But he didn't ask any questions. He paid $26, so we'll take it. Then, this was also in the belt buckle bin, but this is not a belt buckle. This is actually a part of some sort of horse competition. It was a medal. It was an award medallion medal, without the ribbon and without the clasp to hold the ribbon. But it sold on its own for $8 over on Vinted. I always pause like that because Vinted, sometimes I don't know where it's going, and I don't know where this is going. I never know where it's going on Poshmark. And our final sale of the weekend is the oldest listed item that I have that sold. What a long sentence that I struggled with. But it was a pair of Sperry's. These I got 13 months ago. I listed these. I got these the last time that I went to the Goodwill bins, which was 13 months ago. And I think it shook out to be about between 70 and 75 cents per item. That's how I do it at the bins. Well, I only went a couple times, but whatever I got, and then I just divide my total, because if you don't know, the bins charges by weight, not by price per item. So I was like, oh, I got 20 items for $20. I paid $1 per item, something like that. But all the items added up to be about 70 cents. These sold for $10, and they sold on Whatnot. These, again, an item that sat for over a year on eBay. And I actually did go into this listing and make little critiques and edits just to try and get it back up and delist and relist. And the Sperry's don't sell on eBay, apparently, but they sell on Whatnot, which is my only second sale ever on Whatnot. It was a pair of women's Sperry's for $10. 22 sales. I am going to be a busy beaver packaging all these up. Actually, none of these are going to be too terrible to package. So used to packaging baseballs by now. Clothing is... If you're a clothing-only seller and you complain about shipping, good gravy, folks. It's the easiest thing to ship other than cards. No offense to anybody. But, yeah, the phone, everything else is going to be easy breezy, so it shouldn't take too long. But my favorite sale of the weekend, well, it's hard to say that $196 sale on an area where you're already well into the profit on isn't your favorite. I think the Yukon Jack belt buckles are super cool. A whiskey brand that made belt buckles. I got 6 of them, one of which is still sealed in its original packaging. And they're from 1979, which is just super cool. The first one I sold for $12, and this one sold for $12, so around $12 a piece, which is fine. I got 6 of them. Actually, the sealed one I have listed for more. But what was your favorite sale? And I'm gonna package tonight. No time to list, but I'm gonna keep trucking on my listings. That's what I did this past week, and hope that these sales continue the way they did in the past 7 days. And let's hope that I stay out of trouble on Vinted, because I really like that site, and I don't want to list any more knives or scrubs, apparently, over on Vinted. But I want everybody to have just a wonderful, wonderful week here in May.